The air in the Omniplex Tower lobby was cold and sterile, polished marble, stainless steel, and silence broken only by the clicking of heels and the hum of security machines. But what unfolded in that seemingly routine setting was anything but normal. Martha Miller, a 65-year-old retired librarian with early-onset Alzheimer's, stood hesitantly near the security checkpoint, confused and gripping her handbag tightly. She wasn't dangerous, only disoriented. Her husband, Master Sergeant David Miller, retired after decades of military service, stood beside her, gently coaxing her through the moment. He had navigated combat zones, led platoons under fire, and faced chaos without blinking. But in that moment, he was just a husband trying to shield the woman he loved from a world too loud and too fast for her. Officer Kevin Ramirez, a young and overzealous security guard, eager to assert his authority, misunderstood the situation entirely. Mistaking Martha's hesitation as defiance and her confusion as threat, he escalated the situation without pause. Despite David's calm explanation, "She has Alzheimer's, she just needs a moment." Ramirez barked orders, reached for his taser, and ignored all signs of her vulnerability. When David moved to help his wife, Ramirez shoved him aside, and then, without further warning, he pulled the trigger. The crackle of electricity echoed through the lobby as Martha collapsed in a heap, her purse flying open, spilling glasses, tissues, and a half-eaten candy bar across the granite floor. The scene froze time. Onlookers gasped. A woman had just been tased, not for violence or resistance, but for confusion, born of illness. As David knelt beside her, his hands trembling, the reality sank in. His wife wasn't a threat, but she had been treated like a criminal. The man who had defended his country now had to defend his family in a world where authority came with no wisdom, and force was used without thought. What happened next would shake the very foundation of that building. David Miller had faced many moments of terror in his years of service. IEDs in Iraq, ambushes in Afghanistan, the long nights wondering if his unit would make it to morning. But none of it compared to the gut-wrenching helplessness he felt as he cradled his wife's head on the cold marble floor of the Omniplex Tower. Martha, once a lively librarian with a gentle laugh, now lay unconscious, her body still trembling from the taser's cruel voltage. Blood from a small wound on her temple pooled beneath her silver hair, and her breathing was shallow, too shallow. The lobby, once buzzing with the corporate bustle of downtown business, had turned into a place of horror. Phones recorded from a distance, people whispered in shock, but no one moved. No one dared interfere with the scene unfolding between a broken veteran and his brutalized wife. David's hands shook, not from fear, but fury. An icy, controlled fury that years of military discipline had honed. His voice, when it came, was low, calm, and cold enough to cut steel. "You tasered my wife," he said to Officer Ramirez, who now stood a few feet away, looking less sure of himself. "An unarmed, confused woman with Alzheimer's." The young security guard opened his mouth but found no defense. His taser was now back in its holster, but the damage had already been done, broadcast live on dozens of smartphones. David knew Martha needed medical attention immediately, but this was no longer just about first aid. This was about justice, retribution, accountability. And David knew exactly who to call. With surprising steadiness, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his old military-issued flip phone, kept more out of habit than necessity, and scrolled to a contact he hadn't dialed in over a decade. General Alistair Carmichael, a former commander, a man with 4 stars on his shoulder, fire in his heart, and the kind of influence that could part seas and shut down skyscrapers. The call connected in 2 rings. "Carmichael," came the clipped, familiar voice. "Sir, it's Master Sergeant David Miller, retired, Omniplex Tower downtown. My wife Martha, non-combatant, elderly, Alzheimer's patient, has just been tasered by private security. Unprovoked. She's unconscious. I need help, sir, now." A beat of silence followed. Then, like a dam breaking, the general's voice roared through the line. "Tasered Martha, at Omniplex. Is she breathing?" "Shallow, sir. They're calling a medic. She hit her head." "Damn them to hell," Carmichael spat, the fire already igniting. Then came the voice of a commander locking into action. "Listen to me carefully, Miller. Do not engage further with those idiots. Stay by Martha's side. I'm mobilizing now. ETA 6 minutes, and I'm bringing hell with me." The line cut. No goodbye, no hesitation. David knew what that meant. The machine had already been set in motion. While building staff scrambled to radio for paramedics, David focused entirely on Martha, stroking her hair, whispering gently into her ear, willing her to come back to him. "I'm here, sweetheart. You're safe now. I've got you." A young medic from the building finally arrived, flustered and undertrained, fumbling with a blood pressure cuff. David let him work, though his eyes never left Martha's face. He could feel the weight of all the years they'd shared pressing on his chest, her soft hands in his during hospital visits, her laughter echoing in their kitchen, the nights she couldn't sleep because the world made no sense anymore. And now she lay tased, humiliated, and hurt in front of strangers because one man mistook authority for permission to harm. The minutes crawled by like hours, but then, just as Carmichael promised, 6 minutes after the call, the building's massive glass doors burst open with a crash that echoed through the marble. 2 military police officers entered first, weapons holstered but posture rigid, scanning and securing the lobby with professional precision. And behind them, in full-dress uniform, stepped General Alistair Carmichael, a towering presence, chest full of ribbons, eyes like winter steel. He didn't speak at first, just walked straight toward David and Martha, scanning the scene with deadly calm. The protest in his stride, the fury beneath his calm voice, and the power at his back would soon make it clear. This wasn't over, and justice in full uniform had just arrived. The moment General Alistair Carmichael entered the Omniplex Tower, the entire atmosphere shifted. He didn't walk, he stormed in, every stride deliberate, each footfall echoing like a warning through the high-ceilinged marble lobby. Dressed in his Class A uniform, the 4 stars on his shoulders gleamed under the overhead lights, and his chest bore the weight of a lifetime of service. Decorations earned in fire and fury, not formality. His piercing blue eyes scanned the chaotic scene, Martha Miller on the floor, her husband David still kneeling beside her, one hand gently cradling her head. Paramedics attending her with quiet urgency, and the 2 security officers standing stiffly at attention, visibly shaken by the turn of events. General Carmichael didn't stop for pleasantries. His authority filled the room like a tidal wave. The 2 military police officers at his flank moved efficiently, securing the area without so much as a raised voice. Civilians parted instinctively, drawn aside by the sheer presence of the man now in command. This wasn't a police matter anymore. This was a matter of military honor, and the man who now stood in the lobby had made a career out of defending that principle. He approached David Miller and knelt briefly beside him, his hand resting lightly on the veteran's shoulder. "Miller," he said, his voice low, firm, but layered with empathy. "Top trauma team is en route. Walter Reed is notified. A helicopter's on standby if needed. We'll take care of her." Then, rising to his full imposing height, he turned to face the 2 Titan security guards. His tone shifted instantly from compassion to calculated steel. "Which one of you deployed a weapon on a 65-year-old woman with Alzheimer's?" Officer Ramirez swallowed hard. "Sir, General, she was non-compliant. A potential threat. I followed protocol." Carmichael took a deliberate step closer, his voice now a quiet threat. "A potential threat," he repeated coldly. She was clutching a purse. "That woman is the wife of Master Sergeant David Miller, a man who bled for this country while you were likely failing high school gym class. He has faced down real threats. You assaulted his wife because you didn't know how to read a situation. That's not protocol. That's incompetence wrapped in cowardice." Officer Jones stepped forward nervously. "Sir, I tried to intervene, but—" "You failed to act," Carmichael snapped, not even turning to look at him. In this uniform, hesitation in the face of injustice is as damning as the act itself. The building manager, Mr. Peterson, arrived just then, his face pale and voice shaking. "General, I had no idea. This is a misunderstanding." Carmichael didn't raise his voice, but somehow it grew louder. "This is not a misunderstanding. This is a breach of dignity. A decorated veteran's wife was tased on your watch, in your lobby, by your contracted personnel. As of this moment, this facility is under lockdown. No one enters or exits without clearance from military police. He turned to his aide. Confine both security officers to their station under MP supervision. Alert civilian authorities for a formal transfer. Peterson tried to stammer out a defense, but Carmichael was already issuing more orders. I want full security footage of this lobby for the last hour downloaded and sent to my office. Personnel files for both guards, training records, body cam data, if any exists. Also, prepare for a formal joint review with the Pentagon's legal and medical affairs branches. David watched it all unfold, still at Martha's side. His wife was now semi-conscious, being carefully loaded onto a stretcher. Carmichael returned to them, knelt once more, and looked directly into Martha's dazed eyes. "You're going to be all right, ma'am. I'm here now. And no one hurts one of ours without consequence." As the ambulance pulled away, Carmichael stood tall once again. "Miller," he said, his voice softening only slightly, "I'm riding with her to the hospital. My aide will remain here and oversee the scene. This doesn't get buried. You have my word." And with that, the general strode out of the lobby, his presence leaving behind a trail of silence, fear, and one unmistakable message. The U.S. military doesn't forget its own, and when justice is required, it arrives in full uniform. The fallout from what occurred in the Omniplex Tower lobby reverberated far beyond the polished granite floor where Martha Miller had fallen. In the hours following General Carmichael's dramatic intervention, the building, once a symbol of corporate power and modern prestige, became ground zero for an unfolding national scandal. News of the incident spread like wildfire. Footage taken by horrified onlookers, clips showing an elderly woman being tasered, a decorated veteran shouting in anguish, and a four-star general placing an entire building under military lockdown was already trending on every major platform. And with each passing minute, public outrage grew louder. True to his word, General Carmichael wasted no time initiating formal action. Officer Ramirez, the young security guard who had deployed the taser, was immediately placed under military police guard and later turned over to civilian authorities. Within 24 hours, he was not only fired from Titan Security Solutions, but also formally charged with felony assault of a vulnerable adult and excessive use of force. His expressionless mugshot, released to the media, became a symbol of blind authority misused. Officer Jones, though less directly involved, faced his own consequences, terminated for failure to intervene and named in multiple internal investigations for professional negligence. Titan Security Solutions, the private firm responsible for staffing the Omniplex lobby, felt the blow almost instantly. Their lucrative nationwide contract with the Omniplex Corporation was terminated within 72 hours. A federal investigation into their training practices, use of force policies, and handling of special needs individuals was launched by the Department of Justice. Investors quickly distanced themselves. The firm's public image, once marketed as elite and dependable, crumbled under the weight of undeniable video evidence and the fury of a protective military community. But the most profound change came from within the walls of Omniplex itself. The corporation's board of directors, facing mounting public pressure and scathing media coverage, held an emergency meeting. Statements of apology were issued, donations were pledged, over $5 million earmarked for Alzheimer's research, veteran support programs, and national caregiver resources. Every security protocol across their 120 facilities was put under immediate review, but to David Miller and many like him, it was never about the money. It was about the principle, and that principle found its voice through General Carmichael. He personally oversaw the debriefing and documentation of the incident. Every statement from witnesses, every second of footage, and every detail of Martha's medical condition was compiled with the precision of a wartime operation. Within a week, the general testified before a congressional oversight committee about the treatment of veterans and their families in public spaces. His speech, equal parts restrained fury and deep conviction, was broadcast live. What happened to Mrs. Martha Miller was not an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a larger illness, the casual disregard of service, sacrifice, and vulnerability in favor of corporate procedure and unchecked authority. Meanwhile, Martha recovered slowly under expert care at Walter Reed. The physical injuries, mild head trauma, bruising, and the residual effects of the taser were being treated. The emotional wounds, however, lingered. Yet through it all, David never left her side. his once quiet strength now reinforced by the knowledge that their ordeal had sparked a national reckoning. He had spent his life protecting others in combat zones. Now others had come to protect him and his wife. The broader public began asking uncomfortable questions. How could a security guard with less than 6 months of experience be given the authority to use a weapon on a confused elderly woman? Why was there no training for recognizing medical conditions like Alzheimer's? Why did it take a general to arrive before anyone showed true accountability? As policies shifted and companies scrambled to review procedures, the story of Martha and David Miller became a landmark moment in the discourse around justice, aging, and veteran care. Not just because of the horror of the act itself, but because of what followed: swift consequences, unapologetic leadership, and unwavering loyalty. Because when one veteran's wife was harmed, a whole system stood still and was forced to change. In the end, what unfolded in the sterile lobby of the Omniplex Tower became more than just a security incident. It became a symbol of what happens when power goes unchecked, but more importantly, a testament to the strength of brotherhood forged in service. When Martha Miller was wrongfully harmed, her husband David didn't need to shout or threaten. He made a call, and in less than 10 minutes, a 4-star general crossed city lines, shut down a corporate skyscraper, and reminded the world that veterans, and those they love, are never alone. The swift, disciplined response from General Carmichael wasn't just about justice. It was about respect. It was about memory. It was about honoring every promise ever made to those who served. David and Martha's story isn't just theirs. It's all of ours. It speaks to the kind of country we choose to be. One where the weak are shielded by the strong, where sacrifice is repaid with loyalty, and where silence in the face of injustice is never an option. Because brotherhood doesn't retire. It stands ready. Always. True strength isn't shown in force, but in protection. The bonds we forge through service and love don't fade with time. They deepen. And when injustice finds its way to our doorstep, it's the unity of character and loyalty that can move mountains. If you believe our veterans and their families deserve unwavering protection and dignity, leave a comment below and share your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because honoring heroes begins with remembering their stories.